I'll just turn that down a little bit. Good afternoon, YouTube. Thought I'd read you. Yes, okay, thank you. The essay of sustainable food production of that year and that subject. And this essay, we were allowed to dream large. So, a symphony for spring, transition from unsustainable to sustainable food production and the future direction. 2,734 words. We're allowed a 2,500 with 10% over or under, excluding table of contents, footnotes, captions, and headings. Melbourne Uniboy today, Sustainable Food Production, Food 90034, Semester 2, 2021. It's 4 years ago, eh? Table of contents. I did learn how to change these colours. There's the blue. Eventually. Table of contents, introduction. The unsustainability of the industrial food system, livestock, case studies. And they're trying to sell me some beef part. What do they call it? Packaging. I hate it how it does that. No, thank you. So where was it? The unsustainability of the industrial food system, livestock, case studies, Australian agriculture, especially beef, Brazilian agriculture, especially beef, sustainability practices, sustainable systems, solutions for sustainability, transitioning for sustainability, future fantasy, reference list. Nature will be modelled on culture, understood as practice. Nature will be known and remade through technique and will finally become artificial, just as culture becomes natural. Rabineau, cited in Escobar, 1996. Introduction. Currently, industrial food systems are unsustainable. Steiner et al. 2020, Union of Concerned Scientists, 2015. Fossil fuel, water, and topsoil use is unsustainable. Harrigan, Lawrence and Walker, 2002, page 445. Moreover, we cannot grow enough food for the growing global population. We are not meeting everybody's nutritional needs with overconsumption and underconsumption and food loss and waste. Heppel, 2019, Steiner et al. 2020. Helpy, I should say. How can we then meet future people's needs for resources and food, including meat? Meat demand is increasing to double today's as global urbanisation and affluence increase. Howden et al. 2007, Rogers Downing et al. 2017, Stokes et al. 2010. Further, this demand increases production requirements, threatening more deforestation, soil loss, water and fossil fuel use that cannot happen if we are to remain within planetary boundaries. Rockstrom et al. 2009. We must transition into a sustainable system. This essay explains the contention the food system is unsustainable. It does this by first outlining the situation broadly and then briefly explicates two case studies, one developed country, Australia, and one developing country, Brazil, focusing on beef production. Next, it highlights current ideas for sustainable food production. It then investigates what transitioning may involve, then offers a framework for governance. It ends with an imaginary for future production. The unsustainability of the industrial food system. Currently, industrial food systems, especially intensive meat production, are unsustainable, detrimental to the environment. Agriculture's vast monocultures, land converted to produce wheat and grains for our junk food, Union of Concerned Scientists, 2008, and our livestock, are steadily decreasing biodiversity and essential service needed for our continuance. Agriculture's pollution and overuse of water, growing crops in unsustainable locations, along with agrochemical runoff, add to its unsustainability. Moreover, the mismanagement of soils has led to soils degradation, and chemically, physically, and biologically sound soils are essential for our survival. Soils are suffering from salinity, results of deforestation that raises the water table, pushing salts into the topsoil that grows nothing. Wind and water eroding soils from lack of soil cover, eroding the land's fertility and increasing sediment in waters, and polluting soils with overuse of agrochemicals toxic to humans, affecting the reproductive and endocrine systems and causing cancer. Origin, Lawrence and Walker, 2002, clearly demonstrate its unsustainability. Another substantial aspect of concern is its significant contribution to climate change, affecting our ability to grow food. Rickards and Howden, 2012. This unsustainability is a social and environmental crisis that demands we transition from this unsustainability into a sustainable socio-technical landscape. Footnote 1, Gels, 2004. Footnote 1, for Gels, or Geels, 2004, society is a socio-technical system that consists in three nested analytical levels known as the multi-level perspective, MLP, the niche, the regime, and the landscape. Gels's 2004 niche is the level where new socio-technical configurations appear and is a safe place for their incubation. Regimes hold niches. The regime is the middle level in which social groups enact and reproduce elements and places for their linkages, a performative. The regime is the middle level in which social groups enact and reproduce elements and linkages, a performative, Butler, 1999, space, needing a shift in identity. Elements such as technology, regulation, use practices and markets, cultural meaning, infrastructure, maintenance networks, supply networks, and linkages make up, along with rules and routines of social groups, and stabilise the system. Gels, 2004, page 19. Naturally, niches are points to disrupt and insert new configurations to infiltrate the linkages with new elements. Canola et al. 2012. Landscapes hold regimes. Like the regime, the landscape consists of elements. Gels, 2004, page 34, describes as deep structural trends, which are material like cities, factories, highways, but also cultural and normative values. See figure 8 for a schematic of the MLP. With that, then we'll get to it. Okay. Where'd one go? It's down here? Yeah, okay. Livestock. Meat consumption, a major source in this unsustainability, is trending to increase at least 73% by 2050. Escribano, 2018, Stokes et al. 2010. The 2012 global figures for animal slaughter listed in Table 1 are astounding, and they need to double by 2050. ML and Neo, 2015, page 2. Manifestly, Table 2 shows some regions per capita meat consumption with percentages of annual growth. McLaughlin, 2015. Moreover, industrial meat production treats animals and the environment abhorrently with its pollution and cruelty. For example, manure and agrochemicals leach into waterways, causing eutrophication, algae bloom, resulting in a loss of oxygen and fish deaths known as dead zones, see figure 1. Furthermore, livestock farming produces 8 to 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions, GHGE. Henry et al., 2012, Rogan Downing et al., 2017, including ruminants' methane emissions, amongst other GHGs. Greenwood, Gardner, and Ferguson, 2018, ammonia and nitrous oxide emissions, Gelsen and Green, 2004. Notwithstanding animal suffering and the unnecessary antibiotic use leading to antibiotic resistance and disrupting the reproductive and endocrine systems for humans, Gunderson, 2011, Rowland, 2014, Harrigan, Lawrence and Walker, 25. Table 1, global figures of number of animals, individual animals slaughtered in 2012. Was that 1,394,489,497 pigs, chickens. 59,793,859,000 chickens. Horses. 4 million. Ducks, 3 million. Was that 3? Yeah, 3 million. Camels. Cattle. Geese, sheep, lambs. Goats. Meat consumption for selected regions, 2001, 2011. There's percentage annual average. Can I change that? No, it's a PDF. Average annual growth rate, percent, 1991 to 2001 to 2011. So it's shrunk, Brazil. And China's shrunk. And India's growing. USA's shrunk. Central America's shrunk. South America has shrunk. Southeast Asia is growing. Africa is growing. And the world is growing by 0.1. Per capita consumption, meat consumption per capita per kilograms. Average annual growth rate. Figure 1, global dead zones. The red circles show size. The black dots indicate size unknown, but dead zone observed in that locality. New Zealand, Australia, New Zealand, WA. Lots of dead zones. Plus, for an industry focused on efficiencies, meat is inefficient, especially beef. Cattle require 7 kilograms of grain to produce 1 kilogram of beef. Origin, Lawrence and Walker, 2002. Grain and land that could service human food, increasing social sustainability, notwithstanding social inequality of meat consumption between rich and poor. Not consuming saturated animal fats reduces one's risk of acquiring non-communicable diseases like heart disease, some cancers, and type 2 diabetes. Sick. Harrigan, Lawrence and Walker, et al. We must transition to sustainable food systems, and changing diet will play a large part, which will require constructing new epistemologies about consuming food. O'Neill et al. 2019. Case studies, Australian agriculture, especially beef. Australia has a clean and green, disease-free reputation in the global beef market. Greenwood, Gardner and Ferguson, 2018. The domestic market for beef in Australia is a small percentage of the total livestock revenue. Barris, note 8. As such, the beef industry exports around 65% of its production. Illis 2021. Okay, Greenwood, Gardner, and Ferguson 2018. It contributes roughly 20% to the total value of Australia's farming, yet it takes up about half the continent, with some 47,000 cattle producers controlling 25 million heads of cattle. Greenwood, Gardner, and Ferguson 2018. However, much of this production is from broadacre, extensive rangelands, land not suitable for other crops or fibre production. Greenwood, Gardner, and Ferguson 2018, which is a sustainable use of that land if it cannot be improved for more high-value uses or left to rewild. Being predominantly an export industry ensures Australia's production is quality, high-value beef. Greenwood, Gardner, Ferguson, 2018, page 992. This high-value status is derived from the sustainable systems cattle graze, mainly pastures with some intensive high-input concentrated animal feeding operations, CAFOs, for finishing, and its disease-free status. Greenwood, Gardner, and Ferguson, 2018. 2% of the world's beef Australia produces, while ranked a very efficient producer, also the third largest beef exporter behind India and Brazil. See figure 2. Greenwood, Gardner, and Ferguson, 2018. Maintaining this high value status in an increasingly competitive market is a priority for Australian beef, so the industry can please their choosy customers who demand ethical and sustainable beef. Greenwood, Gardner, and Ferguson, 2018, page 1000. Top 10 beef exporters, figure 2, a ranking in 2016 of selected beef exporting and producing countries. Greenwood, Gardner, Ferguson, 2018. Includes buffalo meat, India, Brazil, Australia, United States, New Zealand, Canada, Uruguay, Paraguay, European Union, Mexico. Exporters, producing countries, United States, Brazil, European Union, China, India, Argentina, Australia, Mexico, Pakistan, Turkey. Australian beef crosses all climatic regions. See figure 2. Figure 3 shows the distribution of cattle across Australia, with about 60% in the northern tropical parts. Greenwood, Gardner, and Ferguson, 2018. In the north, Australian beef roams savanna or low input rangeland systems with low stocking rates. Greenwood, Gardner, and Ferguson, 2018. In the south, cattle graze on native or improved pastures and forages, usually unirrigated, either set stocked or rotational grazed. Figure 3, Australian climate classification. I'm not going to go through that. Okay then. Temperate is this one. This colour. And the yellow is grazeland, I think they might say. And the orange is desert. And this one, I don't recollect. Looks kind of tropical. And that's tropical. And that's... Oh, no. Don't know. Figure 4, 25 million cattle distributed across Australia as of June 2016. 2 million WA, 2.2 million in Northern Territory, 1 million in South Australia, 10 million, 10.5 million in Queensland, 5 million in New South Wales, 3.5 million in Victoria, 0.6 million in Tasmania. Since colonisation in 1788, European farming practices and products have led to continent-wide soil degradation. Pascoe, 2014, for an extensive historical account of Australian agriculture, see Illis, 2021. With soils lacking good structure that are prone to erosion and lack fertility, especially nitrogen and phosphorus. Greenwood, Gardner, Ferguson, 2018, which will likely worsen with climate changes, extreme weather events. Resilient agriculture, especially beef. That's nice, isn't it? As of 2020, Brazil has overtaken India as the world's #1 exporter of beef by volume, which is trending to increase to serve the 35% increase in demand for beef. Libera, Libera, Marote, and Horta, 2020. In contrast to Australia's high value exports, Brazil's are lower than average value, see figure 5. Like Australia, Brazil's land is vast with a climate that enables cattle ranching, unsustainably holding more beasts than people. 198 million head in 2012, see table 3. The majority held in CAFOs, concentrated feeding operations, something. Table 3, profile of the livestock sector in Brazil for 6 years between 1970 to 2012. Pacheco and Potcard, Cap US 2015. Population of Brazil, thousands. It's not that. That's a bit sad. Might be under the frame. Cattle in Brazil, 1,000 head. Right. So, yeah. Cattle in Brazil, legal Amazon. Cattle in the Brazil, legal Amazon, 1,000 head. Beef production, 1,000 head. Beef exports, 1,000 tons. Nice. Milk production, 10,000 tons. Milk exports, 1,000 tons. Unlike Australia, large-scale land holdings are shrinking, with small-scale land holdings expanding due to large-scale curving to CFOs. These small-scale land holdings account for about 90% of Brazil's production, which are low-tech operations that invest little in land and pasture care or in animal husbandry, accounting for Brazil's beef industry's poor productivity and environmental reputation. Figure 5, international imports from Brazil. Imports from Brazil, United UE 28, third group. US. Where's Australia? Canada, Indonesia, Thailand, United Emirates, maybe? I don't know. Israel, Singapore, China, Hong Kong, Chile, Egypt, Russia, Philippines, Malaysia. US 3 billion beef import market size. The dot. Beef imports average price, dollars per kilo. Brazil's share of beef imports, that scale. I don't know who else they compete with there. Average beef price per country. Brazil's average price, market price, excluding Brazil, country average price. So average price, beef price per country. US, Brazil average price, country average, market price, excluding Brazil. Singapore, market. I'm not sure how to read that. Unlike Australia, Brazil is known for environmentally unsustainable practices, especially carbon emissions and deforestation of the Amazon and Cerrado by Libera Marotti Horta 2020. This massive deforestation is having devastating impacts on biodiversity and climate change. Deforestation has occurred in Australia too. As an exporter, Brazil must meet consumer demand for ethical and sustainable beef. As such, the Brazilian government has started enforcing its environmental policies that regulate deforestation and have created a certification system that stamps beef as legal, which supermarkets favour, withdrawing contracts with illegal producers. These measures reduce deforestation, but Libera Marotti Horta 2020 advised it is increasing again, see figure 6, due to demand increasing without increased productivity. Deforestation in Brazil's Amazon, thousands square kilometers, 2014, 2019. Deforestation continues. Promoting sustainability, Brazil instantiated the Brazilian Roundtable on Sustainable Livestock, BRSL, that aims to increase the sector's sustainability and productivity. Notwithstanding Johnson's 2015 scepticism toward roundtables, the BRSL induces legal, economic and environmental compliance with regulation, which may favour large over small producers, but incentives and rewards are being formulated. They, like Australia, still seek to develop their industry, but unlike Australia, to lift people out of poverty instead of, like Australia, satisfying their capitalist need for endless growth that is inherently destructive to the environment. Sustainability practices. Now, I know to feed America, as they drive through their big yank tanks in to get through McDonald's for the Brazilian beef, they eat their burgers or double whammy whole buffet plate size steak. Sustainability practices. Transitioning will be a process of incremental steps toward common goals. Gupta 2021. Sustainability is complex, involving more than just changing practices. Ari Lund Horgard Nielsen 2021. Both consumption and practices need changing, involving both farmers and consumers. In fact, Project Drawdown suggests agricultural practices are least important, addressing food waste and diets are primary, then protecting ecosystems, see figure 7. However, everyone is implicated, so changing practices is still important. Agricultural practices need changing when considering improving carbon sequestration via sinks, oceans, soils, and trees. Practices like planting trees, stopping deforestation, improving ecosystems and soils by retaining remnant vegetation as biodiversity and habitat, and increasing soils' organic matter through adding compost, green manures, and organic fertilizers will improve and restore sequestration and sinks, increasing environmental sustainability. The developing world's depleted soils require practicing low external input, sustainable agriculture, LISA, Weasel et al. 2009, with agroforestry. Agroforestry, the integration of trees into cropping and or animal food systems, either concurrently or temporally, Leakey, 1996, will improve carbon sequestration. Branca et al. 2013, a sustainable beef farming solution. Drawdown framework for climate solutions. How to read it. C size represents potential emission reductions. CO2 equivalent. Can't quite get that. 2020, 2050 sector, maximum, minimum subgroup. Reduce sources, support sinks. Electricity, food and agriculture land use. Address waste and diets. Shift agricultural practices. Protect ecosystems. Ocean sinks protect and restore ecosystems. Engineered sinks remove and store carbon. electricity, shift production, enhance efficiency, improve the system. Land sinks, shift agriculture practices, protect and restore ecosystems, use degraded land, address waste and diets, improve society, health and education, industry, address refrigerants, use waste, improve materials, transport, shift to alternatives, enhance efficiency, electrify vehicles, shift energy sources in buildings, address refrigerants, enhance efficiency. Drawdown, and that's figure 7, drawdown framework for climate solutions, project drawdown. Sustainable systems. Sustainability requires systems to be sustainable economically, socio-culturally, and environmentally. Brundtland, Commission of, don't know, 1987. Sustainable food systems will be sustainable in these 3 facets. Sumani et al. Economically profitable whilst contributing to national economies, socially fair workplaces that helps the broader community whilst being environmentally regenerative and minimizing externalities. For Isribano, 2018, farms must become self-sufficient by integrating livestock with crop production for manure, fertilization, and growing its feed. Solutions for sustainability. Livestock production needs to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions while adapting to climate change, ensuring sustainability and ethical production. The Australian and beef industries look to meet this challenge whilst increasing efficiency and profitability by utilising technology. Technology can improve cattle genetics, producing more efficient animals, induce precision farming, and augment supply chain management. Brazil will invest into improving its degrading soils along with fencing and water and halt deforestation. Meat and livestock. Australia are commercialising a seaweed feed that reduces ruminants' methane emissions. Cereals and oilseeds also reduce methane output but have trade-offs incentivising deforestation for monocultures, resulting in net increase of emissions. Australia is leading global beef to become carbon neutral by 2030. And I just heard the other day they gave up aiming for the first mover competitive edge. Unless I dreamt it, but I don't think it was a dream. Consumer and investor demand for quality, high value beef that is environmentally sustainable while ethical to animals in a transparent supply chain drives this innovation. Gunderson, 2011, argues alternatively ethical livestock production is antithetical to the capitalist mode of production, insisting the capitalist mode of production needs changing for humane treatment of animals and the environment because its primary aim is to make money, nothing else. Capitalism cannot respect animals nor the environment needed for ethical treatment. Therefore, sustainability requires revolution to communism or socialism or agroecology. 2. Agroecology aims for sustainable food systems, Glassman, 2007, FAO 2015, under principles of ecology, democratic governance, and socio-cultural diversity, Helpy, 2019. Agroecology is dynamic, originally concept, combining the sciences of agronomy and ecology. Today, agroecology expands as a science, a movement, and a practice, and known as the science of managing farms and landscapes as ecosystems. Today, it involves many disciplines, accounting for the whole food system, including disciplines covering ecological, sociocultural, technical, economic, and political dimensions of food systems, from production to consumption. So is now a transdisciplinary endeavour. Agroecology aims for sustainable agriculture that includes the environmental, social, and economic dimensions. A principle of Ecological farming is to use natural and local ecological processes to provide food, fiber, and fuel regeneratively on various scales and to avoid the negative externalities of industrial agriculture by using local place-based solutions, adapting local and indigenous knowledges along with Western science. Agroecology is agile and adaptable, features essential for changing climates and different geographies, cultures, societies, and economies. Following nature's protocols, agroecology valorizes diversification, mixed cultivation, intercropping, cultivar mixtures, habitat management, techniques for crop-associated biodiversity, biological pest control, improvement in soil structure and health, biological nitrogen fixation, and recycling of nutrients, energy, and waste. Agroecology concerns less about practices and more about principles that found practices. I had to put it in, so I just kind of put in a footnote. Yeah. Transitioning for sustainability. Much is written about transition. Escribano, 2018, Ari Lund, Hogard, Nelson, 2021, Sunderland et al., 2012, Gels, 2010, Gels, Elsen and Green, 2004, Elsen, Gels and Green, 2004, Shove, 2004, Burkhout, 2002, O'Neill et al., 2019, Elsen and Boss, 2019, Pastian et al., 2017, Cotti et al., 2019, Hill and McRae, 1996, Jura, Thorond and Fares, 2015, Canola et al., 2021, Illes, 2021, Gels, 2004. Gels is 2004, page 19, Popular Theory, describes large-scale transformations using the multi-level perspective MLP, see figure 8, of a socio-technical system, see footnote 1 above, precisely what we need. Transitioning to sustainable food production requires radical institutional and structural changes involving the whole food system, including beyond the farm gate. These changes include shifts in society's goals, attitudes, and values, requiring new epistemologies for learning new practices, leaving productivism and entering constructivist conceptions that permit integrating local and indigenous knowledges with Western science. This epistemology will also need strong informational and knowledge networks rather than social networks, for their exclusion reduces the lock-ins that social networks maintain, see figure 9 and 10, for representations of the connectivity of these two networks, Dowd et al., 2014, potentially transforming the respectification of convention, Shove 2002. This demands discursive shifts in society's beliefs, symbolisms, and categories that provide meaning and direction to ideologies and public opinion that dictate consumer preferences and values and give social license to firms, create credibility, pressure on, and lead legitimacy for the introduction of strict regulations. Gels, page 499, triggering this major social transition. Transitioning the multifarious food systems will involve transitions of cross-cultural, socio-technical regimes that may require these and other triggers to move beyond lock-ins and the status quo. Figure 8, the multi-level perspective of socio-technical system scales, technical niches, flow through the system, articulation processes with novelties on multiple dimensions, e.g. technology, user preferences, policies, articulation processes with novelties on multi-dimensions. Via co-construction, different elements are gradually linked together. Elements are gradually linked together and stabilize into a new socio-technical configuration, which is not yet dominant. Internal momentum increases. New configuration breaks through, taking advantage of windows of opportunity. Adjustments occur to socio-technical regime. Socio-technical regime is dynamically stable. That would be called metastability. There are ongoing processes on different dimensions. And new social technical influence regime influences landscape. Landscape developments put pressure on regimes, which open up on multiple dimensions, opens up, creating windows of opportunities for novelties. Isn't that fun? Figure 9 shows incremental change agents consist of more social linkages than transformational change agents, which creates lock-ins. A is incremental and B is transformational change agents, figure 9. Transformational change agents, they don't have a big interlinkage. Here are the incremental change agents that have lock-ins because of the conformity. And this is figure 10, shows transformational change agents with more informational and knowledge linkages than incremental change agents, increasing the likelihood of change. A, incremental, B, transformational change agents. Transformational adapter, that's links to knowledge as opposed to links to people. Incremental adapter, they have one type of knowledge. Well, not one, because you can say there's more than one, but you know, less. Predicting transitions is almost impossible. Thus, governing them ought to focus upon regimes and landscapes elements and their interlinkages. For those governing transitions, I recommend using a conceptual framework Canola et al. 2021 created for governing whilst ensuring purposeful change. Their framework consists of the 5 concepts: diversity, interconnectivity, polycentricity, redundancy, and directionality that, if ensured, equal representation within systems helps its adaptability and resilience. This framework can help us understand what is missing and needed for the Brazilian and the Australian beef industry and the broader food industry to become sustainable. Future fantasy. For me, sustainable beef production will incorporate the above plus a rewilding. 3. Aims to restore ecosystems and biodiversity by reintroducing missing links in the system, like apex species, utilising both Indigenous and Western science, but predominantly letting nature take over, restoring the functioning of bioecological services, resulting with food plants grown amongst ornamentals and grown everywhere. The world will be green again, a buzz with insects flying about, pollinating or hunting, and birds' song filling the air, wild dingoes, quolls, devils, bandicoots, bettongs, and potoroos, etc., maintain ecosystems with clear waters. The price of meat has skyrocketed, so now is hunted for incredibly special occasions only. People are fitter, suffering less non-communicable and communicable diseases. CFOs are a breeding ground for communicable diseases like COVID-19, and suffering less guilt from consuming animals with every meal. And there is less violence because diets are equal worldwide. No more seeking more, we have enough. And that's the ideal picture mind. So I'll leave me to it. I'll just go and thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments and whatever else. Thanks.